We're exploring the land of the midnight sun from the heavens. High in the sky, over a land once controlled by the Vikings. From Greenland and Iceland down through Scandinavia. Lands of extremes, with temperatures dropping to a record low of minus 66 degrees recently on the Greenland ice sheet. Lands of volatility, from volcanic eruptions to gushing geysers. Culturally, the Nordic countries are some of the world's most advanced on a range of issues. They're all social democratic nations and have formed a highly progressive Nordic Council. That's working towards creating the most sustainable and integrated regions in the world in the next decade. Ahead in this episode of Nordic Wonders, Greenland and its grinding glaciers. And ice-bound fishermen. Svalbard and its polar bears on the hunt. The Faroe Islands and their coastal waterfalls. And Norway and its beautiful deep fjords. And frozen waterfalls. All ahead as we continue our heavenly series amongst the wonders of the Nordic world. It is a land of colossal glaciers, Greenland. As the world's largest island, the Greenland ice sheet is massive, the biggest in the world after the Antarctic. Ice covers 80% of Greenland's total land area, almost 2 million square kilometres. The ice sheet is also thick. At its deepest, it's 3,000 metres thick, with an average thickness of 1,500 metres. And it's old. Scientists think it could be up to 800,000 years old. Along much of Greenland's coastline, the ice sheet fronts directly onto the North Atlantic Ocean, with large chunks breaking off the glaciers and sliding into the water as icebergs. It's here that Greenland exhilarates. The cracking sound of breaking ice, or the deep thuds of slowly crashing icebergs. These floating chunks of ice are almost the size of 5-storey buildings, with only 10% being visible above the waterline. 2/3 of Greenland lies within the Arctic Circle, and the island's northern extremity lies less than 800 kilometres from the North Pole. It's also ever so close to Canada. Only 26 kilometres separate Greenland from Canada's Ellesmere Island. In total, Greenland's heavily indented coastline is almost 40,000 kilometres long, a distance roughly equivalent to Earth's circumference at the equator. These are jarring landscapes that continue to awe travellers willing to brave chilling sub-zero temperatures. Most of Greenland's settlements are on the coast. Only 56,000 people live in all of Greenland, making it the least densely populated territory in the world. The third largest city in Greenland is Ilulissat, meaning iceberg in the local Greenlandic dialect. First established in 1741, Ilulissat has a population of almost 5,000 and has almost as many sled dogs as people. For more than 4,500 years, Arctic people have inhabited Greenland, their ancestors migrating from what is now Canada. By the 10th century, Norsemen had found their way to the southern part of Greenland and created towns there, while Inuit peoples arrived 3 centuries later. Greenland was under the Norwegian crown for the following 2 centuries, and in 1814 was colonised by Denmark. Since 1979, when Greenlanders voted for home rule, the country has been largely self-governing. Nowadays, Greenland's population, mostly Inuits, is largely concentrated on the southwest coast, while the rest of the island is sparsely populated. Here in Ilulissat, boldly coloured houses have been painted vibrant colours, which originally helped people identify them. Many Greenlanders make their living by fishing. Fishing is such a huge industry in Greenland that it makes up 90% of the island's exports. Fishermen catch marine mammals like whales and seals, both important meats in the Greenlandic diet. They're also bringing in prawns and fish like halibut and lumpfish roe. These fishing trawlers are magnets for birds. While other birds migrate south, Greenland's seabirds stay here all year round, even through the bitter winters. They'll follow the trawlers, hoping to take advantage of any scraps offered by the fishermen. The sound of air being expelled from the blowholes of humpback whales signals that it's summertime again in Greenland. Humpbacks are one of Greenland's largest summer guests, with some 3,000 of them swimming around southern Greenland's extensive fjord system between May and October. These giant acrobats of the sea have migrated from the winter feeding grounds in the Caribbean. For the past 4,000 years, Inuit hunters have hunted and eaten whales. But in the 19th and early 20th centuries, whale oil lit the street lamps across Europe and America, and improved commercial whaling technology endangered humpback whales. These days, whaling is restricted, with the hunting of a limited number of whales for local consumption being allowed under controlled licences. Now, humpback whales are thriving in this Arctic environment, their swimming spectacle enjoyed by an increasing number of whale watchers. The glaciers of Greenland are amongst the fastest moving in the world, making their way towards the sea at up to 30 metres a day and accelerating with climate change. It's an unfriendly climate here as well. The coldest recorded temperature is minus 66 degrees Celsius in the 1950s, and with a stunning minus 33 degrees in the summer of 2017. With global temperatures now warming faster over the Arctic than anywhere else, Greenland's ice sheets are melting at an alarming rate. Satellite data shows that 1/3 of the ice sheet surface has melted in 1 year alone. Sobering predictions. Scientists warn that sea levels will rise by up to 7 metres if all of Greenland's glaciers finally melt. By taking action to reduce carbon emissions, the world is providing Greenland with some hope for the future of its people, its wonderful whales and its stunning landscapes. It's as though the island group of Svalbard in the high Arctic remains in the Ice Age. Ice covers 2/3 of its land mass, and in midwinter, ice sheets blanket the surrounding seas. In places, the ice can be 600 metres thick. Laying midway between Norway and the North Pole, Svalbard was only discovered 4 centuries ago by a Dutchman, Wilhelm Barents. What followed were hunters for whales and walrus, and later coal miners. It was only after the First World War that a treaty was signed to grant sovereignty to Norway. These days, it remains an independent Norwegian territory, a rugged, remote terrain of frozen tundra and more than 2,000 glaciers. So thick is the ice that small ships are only able to sail into these spectacular fjords in late summer. It's the best time to explore, with small groups taking to inflatables to get even closer to the land. What they're exploring is a true untouched Arctic wilderness. There's prolific bird life and polar bears, up to 3,000 of them, more than the archipelago's human population. Today, a mother and her 2 almost fully grown cubs have gathered to scavenge the carcass of a sperm whale which has washed ashore. They're all foraging for sustenance at a time when their ability to hunt for their normal food supply of seals is being challenged by a smaller ice sheet, a sign of climate change taking its toll. Once part of the Greenland landmass, these days Svalbard is a launching pad for many expeditions further north, the North Pole among their destinations. Svalbard has the honour of housing the global seed vault, its icy climate considered ideal for preserving the world's largest collection of seeds, protection against natural or man-made disasters in the future. South of Iceland, halfway to Norway, lie the Faroe Islands, 18 major mountainous islands, all with steep, rugged coastlines. This is another autonomous territory within the Kingdom of Denmark. Self-governing since 1948, almost all aspects of life are controlled locally. They even field their own national sporting teams. Perched precariously over raging seas in the shadow of a towering promontory is the candy-striped 100-year-old Kallur Lighthouse at the northern tip of the island of Kalsoy. The guiding light of lighthouses has helped sailors to safely sail home for centuries. The legendary maritime prowess demonstrated on the Faroe Islands stretches back to the first Vikings who settled here more than 1,000 years ago. It's a dramatic part of the world, with soaring peaks, sheer cliffs, wild beauty, and tiny fishing villages like Gassadola on the island of Vega. Gassadola sits close to a dramatic waterfall, cascading 30 metres directly into the sea. This is the Nullafossa waterfall, its cascades embracing the beauty of the vast North Atlantic Ocean. The people of the Faroe Islands have long cherished their water. Take the village of Kvivík on the island of Streymoy. It's been built on both sides of a stream that flows down the mountainside. The water here is so pure and filled with natural life-giving energy that it's said to have healing properties. The oldest house still standing in Queewick was built in the 18th century, and the population just 600, with the entire population of the Faroe Islands numbering just 52,000. Over the centuries, lone shepherds have tended sheep, using this stone hut as a refuge from the Arctic winds that sweep the Faroes. Finally, a fast-growing attraction of Fager Island, two sea stacks that have been given a collective name, Drunganir. Epic views here for the hikers who'll trek 3 hours from the nearest road. Some have described these formations as the Drunganir Gates, with a huge hole in their formation likened to the entranceway to the Faroe Islands. It is one of the oldest and most mesmerising countries in the world. Soaring mountains, expansive glaciers, deep coastal fjords and peaceful lakes. It is the Kingdom of Norway. Its dramatic mountains and peaks give way to treasures like Lovatnet Lake, a beautiful pearl in a kingdom that has existed continuously for more than 1,100 years. Norway as a kingdom was established in the year 872, when several smaller kingdoms merged. A narrow country running up the western spine of Scandinavia, Norway is home to just over 5 million people, most of them closely related to Danes and Swedes. Much of Norway, like this archipelago of Lofoten, lies inside the Arctic Circle. Lofoten is only 2,500 kilometres from the North Pole, making it one of the world's northernmost populated regions. And yet, people manage to live here. Amongst these supernatural Arctic landscapes are small villages nestled in fjords. Images that are picture postcard perfect. This country of dramatic coastlines also has a royal family, the House of Glucksberg. For the past 30 years, the king has been Harald V, with the royal family labelled by many as the coolest, hippest royals in the world because of their accessibility to the public and their down-to-earth nature. What the royal family and all Norwegians have been able to enjoy over the centuries has been these idyllic landscapes in this, the land of the midnight sun. Further south from Lofoten, a solitary lighthouse guards the southernmost tip of Norway, the entrance to the Baltic Sea from the North Sea. This is Lindesnes Lighthouse, the oldest lighthouse station in Norway. The lamp on the original lighthouse was first lit in 1656, with the current cast iron tower completed by 1915. While Norway attempted to remain neutral in the Second World War, the Germans took over this lighthouse to watch for enemy shipping movements. Traces of that occupation remain, with trenches, tunnels and other fortifications still visible. Today, the Lindesnes Lighthouse is electrified and still active, its beacon shining bright almost 400 years after the first light here was turned on. Inland, Norway's mountainous terrain and icy climate throw up their own challenges. This county, Telemark, is one of 19 counties in Norway. Its formations attract ice climbers around the town of Rjukan. Challenge today is a frozen waterfall. What has flowed freely over the warmer summer months has frozen solid as winter's sub-zero temperatures make their impact. In this case, the ice is frozen to a thickness of around 1 metre. It's potentially dangerous. The lead climber here is using the latest in ice climbing technology: aggressive crampons, ergonomic ice axes and toughened ice screws. But even so, a chunk of ice can break away at any time, leaving the climber dangerously exposed. Methodically, he works his way towards the summit. The hard work undertaken by earlier climbers helps those who follow. The climber from a second group is able to use screws already inserted into the ice to secure his safety ropes to advance up a different route. It's in this same Norwegian environment that the wartime movie The Heroes of Telemark was set. Icy formations and bitter winter weather as Hollywood's Kirk Douglas recreated a true Norwegian legend, Rolf Pedersen, a Norwegian resistance soldier who sabotaged a Nazi factory producing atomic bomb-grade heavy water. Today, not far from the site of that factory, our climber approaches the top of the falls. It's been an exhilarating climb. The adrenaline has been flowing fast throughout this morning-long exercise. And just like the end of the wartime Nazi factory, this icy adventure has come to a successful conclusion. Close by, a most remarkable fairy tale church built in the 13th century. It's the Stave Church in the town of Hadal, Stave deriving from its construction method, pillars of Norwegian pine that carry the load. In this case, there are 12 large posts with 3 naves. Of all of Norway's 28 remaining Stave churches, this is the largest and most beautiful. Heavily restored in the 1950s, the Hadal Stave Church standing magnificently in Denmark's rural farmlands, a land filled with farmhouses from centuries past. On the southern seaside of Norway, we find Arlund, with its long history of hunting and farming. These rich valley floors and abundant mountain pastures have been farmed for 2,000 years. Much of this region is made up of fjords and mountains, with small populated areas concentrated in the lower river valleys. One of the most popular attractions in this same county, the Lauterfoss waterfalls. Nature lovers have labelled this as the king of waterfalls, with two streams cascading side by side 100 metres out of a delightful lake known as Lotvanet. Then there's Stedind. In the year 2002, Stedind was selected as Norway's national mountain. A landmark that has long been known to sailors. It's also popular with mountaineers and hikers, especially those wanting to scale the steep walls to the summit. Connecting Norway's interior to the sea is this, the Atlantic Ocean Road. Constructed in 1989, it takes drivers 8 kilometres on a unique journey out to the powerful Atlantic Ocean. A series of causeways, bridges and viaducts link several small islands. The ocean front reveals one of Norway's biggest money makers, fish farms. This farm is fattening salmon, which in turn is fattening Norway's economy. Norway is the biggest producer of farm salmon in the world, with more than 1 million tonnes produced every year. It's seafood, metals and oil and gas that have made Norwegians wealthy. They have the 4th highest GDP per capita income in the world. And they've topped the Human Development Index, a measure not just of income, but of quality of life. One final Nordic wonder returns us to Iceland. The land of ice and fire has a fearsome reputation for its natural wonders. "200 volcanoes, 30 of which are still active. Gushing geysers and hot springs power the country's heating. And massive glaciers. True to its name, ice covers much of Iceland. Nowhere is ice more visible than the Vatnajökull Glacier. This is Europe's largest glacier, covering 8% of Iceland's landmass. Not only does it have a large surface area, some 8,000 square kilometres, but it is also very deep. In parts, it's a kilometre deep. So deep that in parts it conceals some of the most active volcanoes in the country. Volcanic activity in the region has occurred on and off throughout the centuries, with one erupting on average every 4 years. Many geologists believe that several eruptions are overdue. Nowhere is Iceland's watery profile more visual than its waterfalls. There are more than 10,000 waterfalls in Iceland. These cascades carry the runoff from heavy falls of rain and snow up to 4,000 millimetres a year, the height of two people, one standing on top of the other. Such massive flows of water shape both the land and the character of Icelandic people. In Iceland, water is cherished and protected as a sacred medicine, the holy source that gives and sustains all life. One waterfall that attracts big crowds is Hjalpafoss. Here, two rivers, the Tjórsá, Iceland's longest river, and the Fossa join up, disgorging their water alongside one another. The plunge pool below is incredibly serene, popular with Iceland's fishermen. Iceland's coastline is punctuated by distinctive basalt formations. They protrude straight out of the stormy North Atlantic Ocean, black basalt columns that tower more than 60 metres skywards. These formations are known as Reynistrangar. Back in the capital of Reykjavik, evidence that Iceland's economy has recovered with lightning speed from its financial crisis from 2008 to 2011. Today, Icelanders enjoy a high standard of living. Iceland has been ranked the 6th most developed country in the world and 3rd for median wealth per adult. The container ships sailing in and out of Reykjavik demonstrate Iceland's healthy trade position. Iceland's exports make up almost $7 billion a year. Raw aluminium makes up almost a third of that. But fish also account for more than $1.5 billion. And the biggest customers, its European neighbours, the Netherlands, Germany, the United Kingdom and Spain. When the Danes were given Iceland, they converted most Icelanders to the Lutheran religion. Centuries later, Lutherans built this church, Hallgrímskirkja. An imposing church that is Reykjavik's city symbol and the largest of Iceland's 350 churches. It took 41 years to build and was finally completed in 1986. Our final thoughts on Iceland are focused on the future. Rising global temperatures are melting Iceland's icy formations at a staggering rate. Its glaciers are shrinking, losing more than 11 million tonnes of ice every year. Across the Arctic, temperatures are rising faster than anywhere else on the planet. Business and the government are spending millions of dollars preparing for the possibility of a future with no ice. And hydroelectric power plants are being upgraded. Experiments are underway to bury carbon dioxide to keep it out of the atmosphere. A very different world from the one encountered by the Vikings. These seafaring warriors explored a frozen part of our world, a land dominated by enormous glaciers. In Iceland, they encountered volatile geological wonders, from erupting volcanoes to geysers and hot springs. They sailed into Greenland with pods of humpback whales to a land of deep fjords, and an ice sheet 3 kilometres thick that covers 4/5 of the country. What's evolved since the days of the Vikings are a series of countries rich in culture and idiosyncratic delights. From herds of reindeers to frozen waterfalls, from Denmark with its grand castles to Sweden with its progressive society, from Greenland with its fishing boats ploughing through endless ice sheets, to Iceland with its long-haired horses, half wild, half tame. In a region bathed in winter with the universe's most glorious light show, the Aurora Borealis, profound changes are underway in society. Across the region, the population is getting older. By some estimates, over the next 65 years the workforce will shrink by 45 million people. But the elderly who don't work anymore will increase by 50 million people. That's because there are fewer babies being born across the Nordic region. What that means is that there's a huge new strain on the famous Nordic social support system. For every baby born here, they need 2 new immigrants, making Nordic countries more diverse than ever. And climate change is changing the way people live. The melting ice means that in Greenland, traditional ways of life based on hunting are getting harder to maintain. And across the region and the world, the extra water that ice melt adds to oceans is putting coastal homes and cities under threat. But there are also opportunities. Some places that were too hostile to support humans are being opened up to tourism. There's also growth in green jobs, which is helped along by some of the geothermal activity in some Nordic countries. As challenges keep coming, like climate change or global pandemics, Nordic people will continue to innovate and adapt to live rich lives in their frozen wonderland.